I felt the champagne glass slip from my fingers before I heard it shatter. The world around me slowed to a crawl as I watched her glide across the wedding reception in a blue dress that caught the light like water. Karen. My ex-wife. The woman I hadn't seen in 15 years. Dude, you okay? Mark, the groom and my former college roommate, followed my gaze. Oh shit. I had no idea she'd be here. She must be with Greg. He's some hotshot executive my sister-in-law knows. I barely heard him. My chest constricted as if someone had wrapped a belt around my ribs and pulled. The hotel ballroom, with its ocean view and twinkling lights, suddenly felt airless. You know what, I should go, I muttered, taking a step back. Mark caught my arm. Don't let her chase you away. It's been, what, over a decade? Ancient history, right? Ancient history. If only he knew. I had reluctantly accepted this wedding invitation, flying all the way to San Diego despite every instinct telling me to stay home in Boise with Anna and James. Something about the coastal city had felt ominous from the moment I landed, a shadow I couldn't explain hanging over the palm trees in perfect weather. Eric. A deep voice pulled me from my thoughts. Michael, the bride's brother, stood beside me with 2 fresh glasses of champagne. You look like you've seen a ghost. Something like that, I managed, accepting the drink. Michael followed my stare. You know Karen? Small world. She's my patient, actually. One of my success stories in reproductive medicine. The irony hit me like a physical blow. Reproductive medicine. Of all the specialties this man could have chosen. We were married, I said flatly. A long time ago. Before Michael could respond, I saw her notice me. Karen's perfectly made-up face froze, her eyes widening just enough to confirm she was equally blindsided. The man beside her, tall, silver-haired, with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no, must be Greg. And beside him stood a teenage boy, perhaps 15, lanky with dark hair that fell across his forehead. My throat went dry. Something about the boy's posture, the way he held himself. Karen whispered something to Greg and made her way toward me, holding her wine glass like a shield. Her perfume reached me before she did, still the same after all these years, jasmine and something unnameable that used to linger on my clothes. I never thought I'd see you again, she said, her voice tight. Especially here. I forced myself to meet her gaze. Likewise. You look different, she continued, taking in my beard and leaner frame. Life in Idaho agrees with you? Boise, I corrected automatically. And yes, it does. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. We're in Rancho Santa Fe now. Caleb's at Lace Inn in Switzerland. That's their winter break program. We just got back from the Maldives. I recognized the familiar pattern, Karen listing achievements and possessions like items on a resume. Once I might have felt inadequate. Now I just felt tired. How nice for you, I said without inflection. Her eyes narrowed slightly. And you? Still working in logistics. I own my own shipping company now. She took a sip of wine. Still stuck in the same industry. Some things never change, I suppose. Before I could respond, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to see my son James, 16 and already taller than me, looking uncomfortable in his rented suit. Dad, they're about to do the toast. Should I find our seats? I watched Karen's face transform as she took in my son's features, a younger version of my own. The glass in her hand trembled slightly, wine sloshing against the sides. You have a son, she stated, her voice barely audible over the band. Yes. This is James. Her son appeared beside her then, his eyes lighting up when he saw James. Hey, aren't you the guy who played Vivaldi at the Western Regional last month? The one that made the judges cry. James blushed slightly. That was me, yeah. Dude, that was insane. I was 4th chair in the same competition. I'm Caleb. As the boys began talking animatedly about music, I watched Greg approach, his hand possessively finding the small of Karen's back. But he wasn't looking at her. He was staring at James with a dawning comprehension that turned his tanned face ashen. The chandelier lights caught Karen's diamond earrings as she looked from my son to me, 15 years of carefully constructed lies crumbling in the space between us. The reckoning had begun. Seattle, 2008. Rain drummed against the windows of the Emerald Cup, a rhythm punctuated by the Killers playing softly through the cafe speakers. I remembered that day with painful clarity, how the cold had seeped through my rain-soaked jacket as I pushed through the door, desperate for coffee before my warehouse shift. That's when I saw her. Karen sat by the window, backlit by gray Seattle light, her fingers dancing across her laptop keyboard with fierce determination. Something about her focus, the slight furrow between her brows, made me stare a moment too long. I ordered my coffee, turned too quickly and collided with a hurrying barista. My scalding coffee splashed across the room, right onto Karen's MacBook. What the hell? She leapt up, frantically dabbing at her keyboard with a napkin, eyes flashing with fury. I'm so sorry, I stammered, grabbing more napkins. I'll pay for any damages. She looked me up and down, taking in my warehouse uniform and worn boots. My resume on this costs more than you make in a month, she snapped. I should have been offended. Instead I smiled. Try rice. It works for phones. Her glare softened slightly. Rice absorbs the moisture. Worth a shot before you write off your month's salary. A reluctant smile tugged at her lips. Fine. Where do I get this magical rice? I know a place. Let me make it up to you. What began as an accident became a courtship unlike anything I'd known. We walked rainy streets under shared umbrellas. I introduced her to underground jazz clubs. She took me to art galleries I'd never have entered alone. We kissed for the first time on the Bainbridge ferry, stars visible through rare clear skies. That's Orion, I told her, pointing upward. The hunter's constellation. Is that what you are? A hunter? She teased. I caught you, didn't I? Later, in our tiny apartment with peeling wallpaper and creaking floors, we'd lie awake planning futures. Karen sketched nurseries in notebooks while I calculated budgets. 3 girls, she'd whisper. 2 boys and a dog, I'd counter. 5 kids and 2 dogs it is, she'd laugh, sealing our compromise with a kiss. How could I have known that these same dreams would eventually tear us apart? The first year of trying for a baby transformed our home into something unrecognizable. Our bedroom, once our sanctuary, became a clinical space of basal thermometers, ovulation test strips, and a calendar marked with red circles and arrows, a battlefield map for conception. Today's the day, Karen would text me from work, not a request but a command. I'd leave whatever I was doing and rush home, knowing our once spontaneous intimacy had been reduced to a doctor's prescription. 3 times weekly, preferably during peak fertility. 6 months in, Karen scheduled our first appointment with a fertility specialist. It's just a consultation, she said, but her eyes held a different story. Something's wrong. I can feel it. Dr. Myers, with his wire-rimmed glasses and carefully measured words, examined our charts. You're both young. Give yourselves time. Stress is the enemy of conception. Yet stress became our constant companion. I'd find fertility pamphlets tucked between sofa cushions, brochures about male infertility in my coat pocket, statistics about sperm motility pinned to our refrigerator. The first round of tests came back. Your numbers are on the lower end of normal but within range, Dr. Myers assured me. The relief I felt evaporated when I saw Karen's expression. Not relief, but confirmation of a suspicion. Karen joined a support group for women struggling with fertility. She'd return home distant, her eyes red-rimmed, carrying others' horror stories like contagions. The real turning point came during dinner with Karen's family. Her father, a retired Marine colonel, held court at the head of the table. So when are you 2 giving me a grandson? He boomed, crystal tumbler of bourbon in hand. The Wilson name needs to continue. We're working on it, Dad, Karen replied tightly. Working on it? He snorted. Doesn't seem like work to me. What's the hold-up, Eric? Shooting blanks. The table fell silent. Karen's mother gasped softly. Robert, that's enough, she whispered. But the damage was done. I felt stripped bare, my manhood questioned not just by my father-in-law, but by the woman beside me who wouldn't meet my eyes. That night, Karen turned away from me in bed. My sister's pregnant again, she whispered to the wall. Her second. Happened the first month they tried. I stared at the ceiling, feeling the first irreparable crack form between us, wondering if love alone could bridge what biology had fractured. Working late again? I asked, watching Karen apply lipstick. Her third outfit changed that evening for what she claimed was just another office meeting. Big project. Don't wait up. She didn't meet my eyes in the mirror. It had been 3 weeks of late nights, of Karen coming home smelling of unfamiliar cologne with her lipstick slightly smudged. 3 weeks of whispered phone calls on our balcony and text messages that made her smile in ways I hadn't seen in months. I'd planned a surprise dinner at Canlis, the restaurant where we'd celebrated our first anniversary, making reservations a month in advance. When she finally arrived, an hour late, her excuses flowed too easily. Traffic was terrible. The meeting ran over. She glanced at her phone throughout our meal, her mind elsewhere. I wanted to believe her, to trust that the woman I'd built a life with wouldn't lie to my face. But the evidence mounted, New dresses she never wore for me, mysterious receipts, weekends suddenly filled with team-building workshops. The final confirmation came when she asked me to grab aspirin from her purse. My fingers brushed against a hotel receipt. The Fairmont Olympic minibar charges room service for two. What's this? I held up the paper, my hand trembling. Her face drained of color before anger replaced shock. You're going through my things now? God, you're so paranoid. Is this a business expense too? My voice sounded foreign to my own ears, hollow and cold. Of course it is. We had a client meeting in the hotel restaurant. That night, while Karen showered, a text lit up my phone from an unknown number. She's with him right now. Has been for 6 months. Sorry, man. I waited up all night in the dark of our living room. When Karen finally returned at dawn, her eyes were swollen and red. I can't do this anymore, she whispered, walking straight to our closet and pulling out a suitcase. Life is too short to wait for something that's never going to happen. Who is he? I asked quietly. She paused, then continued packing. Greg. From marketing. I should have felt rage, but all I felt was a hollow acceptance. Was it because of the baby thing? Because we could still try. It's everything, Eric. She zipped the suitcase closed with finality. You're not a real man. A real man could have given me a family. The words cut deeper than any knife. After she left, I wandered our apartment like a ghost until I found myself in the bathroom, staring at something in the trash. A positive pregnancy test dated 2 weeks earlier. It wasn't mine, that wasn't enough. It was me. I drowned myself in work after Karen left, taking double shifts at the warehouse, volunteering for overnight inventory. Anything to avoid returning to my empty apartment where her absence was a physical presence, louder than her voice had ever been. You look like hell, my supervisor commented after I'd worked 36 hours straight. Go home, Eric. Home. The word had lost its meaning. My meeting with the divorce attorney was brief and clinical. A bald man with tired eyes who'd seen 1,000 marriages dissolve into paperwork. She cited irreconcilable differences as the cause, he explained, sliding documents across his desk. Clean break. No alimony since you're both employed. No children to consider. No children. The words echoed in my head as I signed my name on line after line, dissolving 7 years of marriage with strokes of a pen. At night, I'd drink whiskey until my fingers went numb, then write letters to Karen I'd never send. I still love you. I hate what you've become. How could you throw away everything we built? Tyler, our mutual friend, found me passed out on my couch one evening. He forced me into the shower, then sat me down with coffee laced with whatever was left in my liquor cabinet. You need to know the truth, he said finally. She was seeing him before you two even started trying for a baby. I stared at him, the words not computing. What? She was already looking for an exit. The fertility stuff, it just gave her an excuse, man. A way to make it your fault. The truth hit harder than her leaving. Every temperature chart, every doctor's appointment, every midnight tear, all theater in a play where I was both audience and unwitting actor. The panic attack struck in the cereal aisle at QFC, sudden, vicious. One moment I was deciding between Cheerios and granola, the next I was on the floor, lungs refusing to fill, the fluorescent lights spinning above me. A security guard called an ambulance. Classic depression and anxiety, the ER doctor diagnosed, prescribing pills I'd never take. Instead, I found relief in distance. I got my commercial driver's license and took jobs hauling freight across state lines. The longer the route, the better. On a desolate Montana highway, I pulled over at a scenic overlook and stood at the edge, staring down at the rocks below. My phone rang, my sister checking in as she did every day now. I stepped back from the precipice. Driving on, I spotted a highway billboard, Boise, new opportunities await. Perhaps it was the simplicity of the message or just road-weary delirium, but something clicked. New opportunities. New life. Far from Seattle and the ghosts I couldn't outrun. My first week in Boise, I lived in a motel room with paper-thin walls that amplified every argument and reconciliation of the couple next door. All I owned fit in 2 duffel bags, clothes, a few books, and a coffee maker I'd inexplicably grabbed during my hasty exit from Seattle. The man who stared back from the motel bathroom mirror was a stranger. Dark circles framed hollow eyes. My cheeks had hollowed from months of forgetting to eat. On impulse, I bought clippers from a nearby drugstore and shaved my head, then let my beard grow unchecked. With new wire-rimmed glasses to replace my old ones, I'd effectively erased the man Karen had known. Even your own mother wouldn't recognize you, the motel clerk commented when I paid for my second week. Precisely the point. I found a job at a distribution center, familiar work that required little thought, and later picked up weekend shifts at a home improvement store for extra cash. My apartment hunting ended with a studio above a laundromat. The constant hum of dryers below became white noise, drowning out my thoughts. Each night, I wrote in a journal, a suggestion from an online article about divorce recovery. The first entries were pure rage, ink-soaked pages of accusations and pain. Gradually, they evolved into blank stretches where words failed me entirely. Finally, in my third month, I wrote, "Today I didn't think about her until evening." Small progress. The first genuine smile came unexpectedly. I was eating lunch on a park bench when an elderly woman with a cane sat beside me, unwrapped a sandwich and without a word, handed me half. "I don't need charity," I protested. She laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "It's not charity, young man. It's connection. You look like you need that more than food." We ate in companionable silence, feeding crumbs to opportunistic sparrows. For 15 minutes I felt human again. Then came the day I met Anna. She stood frozen in the paint section of the home improvement store, staring at rows of white paint swatches as if deciphering hieroglyphics. "Need help?" I asked, adjusting my employee vest. "They're all the same," she sighed, frustrated. "Actually," I found myself saying, "they're completely different." She turned, eyebrows raised. "Prove it." I held up 2 swatches. "This one has blue undertones, better for north-facing rooms. This one leans yellow, warmer, cozier. You actually care about this stuff?" Her smile transformed her face, bringing warmth to features previously tense with concentration. "I care about details," I replied, surprising myself with the truth of it. After months of numbness, I was noticing things again. Undertones in paint, the quality of light, the way her eyes crinkled at the corners when she smiled. "I'm Anna," she said, extending her hand. "Eric," I replied, taking it, my real name for the first time in what felt like forever. My relationship with Anna didn't ignite like a wildfire the way it had with Karen. Instead, it developed like a sunrise, gradual warming, almost imperceptible until suddenly, everything was bathed in light. After helping her choose paint, she settled on Morning Mist, a white with the faintest blue undertone. I found reasons to check on her project. First, recommending brushes. Then, offering to deliver her supplies when our delivery truck had a cancellation. Small, professional courtesies that let me glimpse more of her life. Her house was modest but thoughtfully arranged. Bookshelves filled with medical texts and classic novels, walls adorned with black and white photographs she'd taken herself. During my third visit, I noticed the walking cane propped by her couch. "Multiple sclerosis," she explained when she caught me looking. "Diagnosed 2 years ago. My husband couldn't handle it. Left 6 months later." She said it matter-of-factly, without self-pity, as she opened a can of paint with practiced efficiency. "Some people can't face uncertainty. Not everyone signs up for, in sickness and in health, even when they say the words." I thought about my own failed marriage, how easily vows had shattered against reality. "I'm sorry," I said. "Don't be. It taught me who I am." She handed me a paintbrush. "Since you're here critiquing my color choice, you might as well help." Painting her living room that Saturday became dinner the following Friday. I learned she was a physical therapist who now worked part-time, that she played cello, that her laugh could fill a room without being loud. "Tell me about Seattle," she said one evening as rain tapped against her windows. The old Eric would have deflected, changed the subject. Instead, I found myself telling her everything. Karen, the fertility struggles, the betrayal, my breakdown. "Sometimes I think I'll never be whole again," I admitted, the words scraped from somewhere deep and raw. Anna reached for my hand across her kitchen table. "Nobody's whole. We're all just collections of experiences, some healed better than others." She didn't offer platitudes or quick fixes. Instead, she taught me by example, how she negotiated daily with her body's limitations, choosing to live fully despite uncertainty. "Every morning I have a choice," she told me during one of her bad days, when her hands trembled too much to hold her coffee cup. "I can focus on what MS might take from me tomorrow, or I can appreciate what I still have today." Her strength humbled me. My pain, though real, had finite borders. Hers required continuous courage. The first time I whispered, "I love you," she was asleep on her couch, a medical journal open on her chest, reading glasses askew. Not a dramatic moment of passion, but a quiet realization that I'd found something authentic in the wreckage of my past. Anna's flare-up came without warning. One morning she was fine, planning a weekend hike. By evening I was carrying her into the emergency room, her body racked with pain and weakness. Call Dr. Mercer, she instructed through gritted teeth, squeezing my hand with what little strength she had left. He knows my case. For 7 days, I barely left her hospital room. I slept in a chair that seemed designed for torture, ate vending machine sandwiches, and learned to interpret the language of monitors and medication schedules. The nurses eventually brought me a cot, recognizing I wasn't going anywhere. On the 5th night, when her pain medication made her thoughts float untethered, Anna looked at me with uncommon clarity. "You should leave," she whispered. "This isn't what you signed up for. It's only going to get worse." I took her hand, careful of the 4-line. "I'm not going anywhere. Not now, not ever." "You don't understand," she insisted. I researched the progression. There's a 60% chance I'll need a wheelchair within 5 years. Cognitive decline. Possible blindness. "I understand perfectly," I replied, pulling a small box from my pocket. A ring I'd been carrying for weeks, waiting for the right moment. I realized now there was no perfect moment, only the precious present we were given. "I'm asking you to marry me. All of you, including your MS. Our wedding was nothing like the lavish affair I'd had with Karen. We married in the city park on a Tuesday afternoon, Anna looking radiant in a simple blue dress, supported by a cane she'd decorated with silver ribbons. 6 friends witnessed our vows, followed by cake in Anna's backyard. "What about children?" she asked that night, her head resting on my chest. "My neurologist says pregnancy could accelerate the MS. It might be too risky." "We have each other," I assured her. "That's enough." We settled into married life with a rhythm accommodating her condition. Good days where we explored the city, bad days when I read to her while she rested. We didn't discuss children again, both accepting the reality of our situation. Then came the morning she rushed to the bathroom, retching. "Must be that new medication," she groaned. After 3 days of medication side effects, I insisted on a doctor's visit. "I need to adjust your," Dr. Mercer began, reviewing her chart before looking up with surprise. He ordered a test, then another. "This is unexpected," he said finally. "You're pregnant." Anna clutched my hand, her expression a storm of fear and wonder. "Is it? Can I?" "It's high risk with your condition," Dr. Mercer cautioned. "The MS could worsen during pregnancy or postpartum. You'll need specialized care." "It's dangerous," I stated, terror gripping my heart. "We should consider all options." Anna's eyes met mine, determination replacing fear. "This is our miracle, Eric. Some gifts don't ask permission before arriving." I wanted to argue to protect her from what might come, but the hope in her eyes silenced my fears. After believing I could never father a child, after resigning ourselves to childlessness, life had offered an unexpected second chance. "We'll face it together," I promised, placing my hand over her still flat stomach, feeling for the first time that the universe might not be against me after all. Anna's pregnancy transformed our lives into a delicate balancing act between hope and fear. Her neurologist prescribed bed rest at the end of her first trimester. I arranged to work remotely, converting our spare room into a home office where I could be just steps away if she needed me. "You don't have to hover," she'd complain, though her smile betrayed her appreciation. "I'm pregnant, not made of glass." But she was fragile, her body fighting a war on 2 fronts, MS and the pregnancy taxing her strength. On good days we'd sit in the garden, her hands cradling her growing belly. On bad days I'd hold her through tremors and pain, terror clenching my heart. 4 months in, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Eric? It's Margaret, Karen's mother." Her voice, which I hadn't heard in years, sounded strained. "I thought you should know. Karen knows about the baby. I don't know how, but she does. Be careful." I thanked her without asking questions, a cold unease settling over me. I told Anna nothing, unwilling to add stress to her already precarious condition. At 28 weeks, it happened. A sharp cry from the bathroom, Anna clutching her stomach, a crimson stain spreading across her nightgown. "Something's wrong," she whispered, face pale with fear. The ambulance ride was a blur of sirens and paramedics rattling off vitals. In the hospital, doctors rushed her to delivery while a nurse held me back. "Your wife is experiencing preterm labor. We're going to do everything we can." Hours passed in the waiting room, each minute an eternity. Finally, a doctor emerged, surgical mask hanging around his neck. "Your son is alive," he said, "but very premature, 4 pounds 2 ounces. He's in the NICU. Your wife is stable, but the birth triggered an MS relapse. We've got her on steroids." James spent 3 weeks in an incubator, a tiny warrior battling for each breath. I split my time between him and Anna, sleeping in hospital chairs, existing on coffee and vending machine food. I sang to James through the incubator's hand ports, old folk songs my father had sung to me, unsure if he could hear but needing to reach him somehow. "He knows your voice," a nurse assured me. "See how his stats improve when you talk to him? He's fighting to come home to you." The day we finally brought James home, Anna cradled him in the crook of her arm, tears streaming down her face. "He's so strong," she whispered. "Like you." "Like us," I corrected, marveling at his tiny fingers wrapped around mine. After all the pain and loss, here was this impossible miracle. My son, proof that sometimes life offers second chances. The doorbell rang that afternoon. A courier with legal documents, Karen's attorney demanding a paternity test, claiming my alleged son couldn't possibly be mine given my documented infertility. I signed for the papers without argument, not out of doubt but certainty. James was mine. Science would merely confirm what I already knew in my heart. 7 years passed in a beautiful blur. James grew from a fragile preemie into a vibrant boy with nimble fingers that danced across piano keys as if he'd been born knowing music. Anna's MS stabilized with new treatments, giving us more good days than bad. When Mark's wedding invitation arrived, my instinct was to decline. Why revisit the past? But Anna, ever wiser, placed her hand over mine. "Some circles need to be closed, Eric. You've been carrying this weight too long." So here we stood at the San Diego hotel, the broken champagne glass at my feet as Karen and I faced each other for the first time in 15 years. Our sons, half-brothers who didn't know it yet, already connecting over shared musical talents. After the awkward introduction, I excused myself and found Michael, the bride's brother, by the bar. "That was intense," he commented, watching Karen whispering urgently to Greg. "I've known Karen professionally for years. Never realized you two had history." "Ancient history," I replied. Michael swirled his drink thoughtfully. "You know, I've been meaning to mention something. I read a case study about you, not by name of course. That fertility clinic in Seattle. Did you know the doctor lost his license?" My glass froze halfway to my lips. "What?" "Falsified results for several patients. Told men they had low motility when they didn't. Told women their husbands were the problem to push expensive treatments." He shook his head. "Terrible ethics violation. I published a paper on it last year." The room seemed to tilt slightly. 15 years of believing I was somehow deficient, somehow less of a man, all based on a lie? Karen approached, her composure visibly shaken after meeting James. "We need to talk. Privately." In the hotel garden, words tumbled out between us. Accusations, explanations, apologies too late to matter. "I got the paternity results," she admitted. 99.9% match. I told myself you must have paid someone off, but seeing him today, he's yours. He's so clearly yours. "I never doubted it," I said simply. "Greg and I, we're divorcing. He found someone younger." Her laugh held no humor. "Ironic, isn't it? Maybe we could." "No." The word came gently but firmly. "That door closed long ago, Karen." As we returned inside, I saw James and Caleb exchanging phone numbers, Anna watching with a knowing smile. Walking toward my family, I felt the final weight lift from my shoulders. Later that night, as our plane took off for home, Anna rested her head on my shoulder. "I have news," she whispered. I was waiting for the right moment. She guided my hand to her stomach. "It's a girl this time. The doctor says everything looks perfect." As the city lights faded beneath us, I realized some truths need no words. The loudest truth was the life we'd built against all odds. Not the one I'd once thought I wanted, but the one I was meant to find. "Thank you," I whispered to Anna, to James, to the daughter growing beneath my palm, and even to the painful path that had led me here, where I was always meant to be.